You're listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Makonda. The Pretoria High Court convicted a businessman, Muhamed Sajid Khan, of 2 counts of murder and attempted murder. The accused is originally from Pakistan and owns 9 properties in and around Pretoria. On the 1st of February 2020, 6 members of the concerned Tshwane residents of CTR went to one of Khan's properties in Lutech Street, Pretoria West, to verify if he indeed was the rightful owner of the said property. Upon arrival, an argument arose between Khan and a member of CTR. Khan took out a gun and shot the deceased and a bystander who also died on the scene and attempted to shoot another member of the CTR team. 2 days after the incident, Khan handed himself over to the police and was released on 10,000 Rand bail. After he was found guilty, State Advocate Eric Sihlangu applied that Khan's bail be revoked, and the court granted the state's application. Khan remained in custody after his conviction. The matter is set for 31 May 2022 at Court GC for sentencing. And to give us some more insight into this matter is Tahir Maepa from the Public Service Commercial Union of South Africa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Tahir, and shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Mariam, and happy International Women's Day to you, to our mothers, our sisters, and our wives.
All right, shukran. Now, with this incident goes 2 years back before we even knew of something called COVID-19. And you were amongst a group of activists, politicians, businessmen and women, unions, the media, etc., who marched to the Pretoria West Police Station to hand over a memorandum for the murders of the 2 CTR members, Kabelo, Mukhtar and Avela. Now, has justice finally been served?
Look, the loss of life cannot be equated to any form of justice. Here we're talking about 2 young, promising young men whose lives were snatched away from them by sadly a Muslim brother in cold blood, despite the fact that there was no imminent danger for him at that particular point. And the mere fact that here we're talking about Muslims, obviously we have adapted in terms of how to deal with our differences. The issue of violence is not part of what our deen teaches us. Mutual consultation, talking to one another and trying to find an amicable solution is the way to go. But here we're sitting in a situation where a Muslim takes out a weapon and kill another Muslim for whatever reason. It's really sad because this whole thing, it doesn't only end here. It also really pose a question in terms of whether we as a people have become violent society to the extent that taking a life, it's just an easy thing that we don't even think twice before we do it. It's really sad, and justice to a large extent has been served, but the 2 young men are gone and they will never come back. So it's quite a loss to us as Muslim community, especially the indigenous Muslim community. A person like Mukhtar was such a promising young man. He had a lot to give, not only for himself and his family, but to the people of this country. So unfortunately, this is where we stand. And this also brings about an issue of relationship between us as indigenous South African and the foreigners who come to our shore. Because these are the kinds of things that people now start to talk about, that, we're foreigners who just come to this country and do as they wish. They snatch properties, they commit all sorts of crimes. They go to the extent of murdering our own people, and there seem to be no end in sight. But at least in this particular point, despite the fact that we were quite not happy with the fact that he was just granted bail for these matters, at least now the justice system has proved its worth and he was found guilty, because there was no any contestation in terms of whether he committed those murders or not. Everybody knew that he committed those murders, and he also didn't necessarily deny that he committed those murders. So we are grateful to the justice system for having found him guilty, and I hope that on behalf of everybody involved, he will be sentenced appropriately.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, speaking on what you just said about foreign nationals, and it becomes sort of like an us versus them type of thing. Now, has the government failed us? Has the government failed the people of South Africa?
Well, Mariam, one thing for sure, I'm not the one who's going to propagate a situation where we as citizens take the law into our hands. However, there's a lot of frustration, and by the way, the criminal situation in the country doesn't only affect the those who are South Africans, but everybody who's in South Africa, including the foreign nationals who are in this country for a number of reasons. And not everybody comes to South Africa as a foreigner to come and steal or commit fraud or commit murder. They come here as to come and find refuge because of the unfortunate circumstances of their own countries. However, we still expect that there must be law and order. And the mere fact that the police are unable to deal with the most basic of things in terms of curtailing criminality in the country, despite the fact who commits that crime, it's a problem. And without a doubt, I'm saying that indeed our government has failed its citizens, and it has failed those who require protection from us who come from other countries.
All right. And what is the solution to such problems with our government?
Well, the only solution that we need to have active citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
The citizens of this country need to be active. We need to highlight some of these things and not sit in our own corner and hope that it doesn't happen to us. The fact of the matter is that we see these kinds of criminalities happening on a day-to-day basis. And sadly, some of us as citizens of this country also participate in these things. We are not immune from these kinds of behaviors, but we need more and more active citizens that are going to confront these kinds of issues, especially the young people. They need to stand up and say that this is their country, and they are going to do their best to make sure that we deal with these kinds of behaviors. It doesn't matter who propagates those behaviors, but we cannot continue like this. And the law allows us to highlight these things and really push the police and the government to employ and put more boots on the ground, employ more police officers. I don't know if you know, Sister Mariam, that the whole country of about 50 million people has got only 176 police officers who are supposed to look after our safety. It is ridiculous. It's absurd. It doesn't make sense. And even if we blame these police officers as much as we want to, there is no way that it can be expected that 176 police officials can handle the crime of a country that has over 50 million people. It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense at all because there obviously is something wrong there to have so little police officers, and we've also heard in earlier Feb when police officers and detectives decided to step down from their positions. Yeah, definitely something that needs to be done. Now, just quickly, there's a question here that has been raised. Some people want to know why did the CTR members go to the said properties of the businessman Muhamed Sajid Khan, because that put themselves in danger, that put their lives at risk by trying to confront
Mm,
someone. And did they have the
mm,
right to actually go to the property and
mm.
confront him?
Yes, look, you need to look at this thing in two folds. It's not like
Mhm.
these young men just woke up and then started going to these properties and all. Let's look at our history. We all know that the issue of housing in this country, I'm talking about for South Africans, It's a
Yes.
serious, 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 serious problem. And we know that Pretoria West in particular, most of the buildings, especially those that are owned by the state, the city council, have been hijacked by these people. It's a known fact. And
Mm-hmm.
this group of youngsters, they've been engaging with the police for a long period of time. And what they did, they went to the extent of acquiring the earth numbers of some of these properties and went to the deeds office and uploaded who are the owners and all those kinds of things. So when they went into these properties, they already had information. All that
Mm-hmm.
they asked this, in this particular case, Mr. Khan, is that you're saying this is your property. Can you give us proof that is your property? Now, somebody will ask, but they are not the police to
Mm-hmm.
be asking that kind of information. But look at what I've said earlier on, the frustration that they had because they took this information to the police and the police made nothing out of it. And it is apparently a known fact that this particular individual, Mr. Khan, he prides himself of saying that, you know what, he's got the whole Pretoria West police station eating from his hand. He apparently says it to publicly to everybody that no, he's untouchable, and it's been
Mm-hmm.
going on like that. So this is the kind of frustration that people get, and they end up doing these kinds of things. But what is important is that they were not violent with Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan was violent with them because maybe because he believed that he's above the law, he's able to do it. His life was not threatened. None whatsoever. These boys didn't even
Mm-hmm.
have a stick in their hands. They were talking to him. I mean, I saw a video where Mukhtar even had his hand behind him to show that, you know what, I'm not here to fight with you. I'm asking you a simple question. All that maybe Mr. Khan should have just said, you know what, you guys are not police. I'm not willing to talk to you. Let's go to the police station and let's go sort it out there. This thing could have been resolved amicably. But we cannot, as citizens of this country, allow a situation where our properties of the state, because we are taxpayers, we pay for those
Yes.
properties, and are taken by criminals whilst our people are living in squalor without housing. That is unacceptable. And I'm saying that as a citizen, we have every right to ask this question.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, the matter is set for 31 May 2022 at Court GC for sentencing. What would you like to tell the public or the audience, everyone who's listening?
Look, at the end of the day, you take a life in Islam. The Sharia is very clear under these circumstances. But we are in a democratic country where we have laws that governs, and we as Muslims, we must accept what the law of the country that we are in says about these kinds of things. And I'm saying the only fit sentence is for this guy to get multiple life sentences. He
Mm-hmm.
cannot be allowed to ever see a light of day outside of a prison environment. And we'll be mobilizing the community to be part of this court case to make sure that whatever that happens, it should be in the not in the interest of those who lost their loved ones, but in the interest of this country, where we're saying that criminality will not be accepted. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, thank you for your time, Brother Tahir, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Sister Maria.
Tahir Maepa, the leader of Public Service Commercial Union of South Africa, giving details of the conviction of businessman Muhamed Sajid Khan on 2 counts of murder and attempted murder. And just to read some of the comments that I come across here, one says, a Cardinal says, how on earth is a foreign national owning a property in South Africa, even a firearm, and having a nerve to kill? See what this Mandela constitution that is said to be the best in the world has brought to SA. All the way from Pakistan, a foreigner behaves like this. Is this how you thank South Africans for being kind and welcoming? Basimani says it's moments like these that shows that us as South Africans are weak. We have voted politicians in, and they're dragging their feet to maintain law and order. It's now in our hands. We owe politicians no favors, but they were put in a public office to deliver. Period. Um, just going through the comments, a lot of anger here with this case, a lot of blame, a lot of fingers pointed. It's becoming like an us versus them, foreigners versus locals. Governments getting involved or getting dragged into this, and they need to be. Like Len Tabo says, the solutions to our problems lies in our hands. We just vote ANC out of power and restore law and order. He owns 9 properties and probably a flight risk, but bail was set for 10K. The judge should be questioned. SA is swamped with foreign thugs. Another comment coming in from Roshan. Imagine this, a foreign national who comes here and owns 9 properties and still has the audacity to resort to violence. A lot of SA people suffering on a daily basis just to put food on the table. Mdu says they must take him to Portsmouth. He will be dealt with decisively. And yeah, Joe says Pretoria West is no longer South African. It's some foreign parts of Pretoria, thanks to our corrupt government officials. And exactly what kind of country allows guns, or not just foreigners, but anyone to own guns any way, anyhow? No one is above the law. No one is above the law. So we should all follow the law, and there should be law and order. But unfortunately, we see such incidences happening. It is 11:30. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mara Mukwanda. Please